Welcome to Playing the Big, Beautiful Long Game, where entrepreneurship meets spirituality. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and business success. This podcast delves into the idea that entrepreneurship is not just about profits or growing businesses. It's also about embracing purpose, meaning, and inner growth. Each episode features conversations with entrepreneurs and thought leaders who share their journeys of building businesses that align with their highest values and deepest calling. I'm your host, Debbie Zita. Sit back, relax, and thank you for being here. Welcome, beautiful Keri. Thank you so much for being here. Can you please let the audience know who you are and what it is that you do?
I am Keri Krieger. I am an acupuncturist and doctor of Chinese medicine. And goodness, I do lots of things, but my primary passion is around supporting women to understand their bodies better so they can understand and evolve tricky transitions, things like perimenopause, postpartum, all of those transitions that our society doesn't always necessarily equip us for. And I'm really passionate about supporting other health practitioners to be able to support those same ladies as best as they can as well. So that's a it's definitely not a 25 words or less elevator pitch, but yeah.
But so beautiful. And I have to go back to when we first met because I was thinking about the transition that I was in, and you were at that stage working at the beautiful Gwingana in Queensland, and I was coming to the end of my marriage, and I was very, very lost, very confused. And I don't even remember what I had booked in with you, but your energy and the way that you held space for me in that transition period blew me away. And then we stayed in touch after that. And I know we haven't really kept in touch, but we stayed enough in touch that I could reach out and say, hey, jump on the podcast.
And
And
it was
I
so
just
wonderful.
loved you. And I still do. You're just so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. And it means the world because it's genuinely what I love to do. It's just to support women through those times of upheaval and change. And Chinese medicine has the most elegant models of care to help us understand how we need to be and the things that we can best do to support ourselves in times of change, whether that's cold and flu or, going through big life changes like partnership endings and those sorts of things.
Can you tell us how did you get started? What inspired you to go and study that?
It is a funny story, and it's quite a simple one in as much as I was just curious. So I started studying in the early 90s. So the internet wasn't a thing. I wasn't going online and seeing people doing, their morning practices. I had lived in a very rural area where Chinese medicine, I mean, none of that existed. So it's really, really quite fascinating to me just how curious I was about alternate health when I literally had no concept of that even being a thing.
Mm.
But I was doing a Bachelor of Arts, and I just simply enrolled in a herbal medicine class at 19 in 1993 or 4 or whatever year that was, a very long time ago, and just followed my curiosity from there. So it's a very simple but potentially in hindsight quite bold thing to do, to just launch off, and from there enrolled in what was the Advanced Diploma of Applied Sciences in Chinese medicine. And 3 years later I graduated and I was practicing acupuncture at like 24 or something stupid.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
What have been some of the highlights of your career? Talk us through those moments.
I look, contacting and being with people is always a really, really delicious thing because that feels purposeful, and you think, oh yeah, there's a point to all of this.
Yeah.
And then there's the fun things like working in beautiful health retreats, getting to go overseas, working in really, stunning luxury health retreats overseas, doing those kinds of jobs that would, in this day and age, look very, very lush on Instagram,
Yes, Yes.
Um, but these days it really is just back to that personal connection
Yeah.
that Chinese medicine is just so elegant and so deep, but also so practical that you can put it into your everyday life. And I love being able to translate that.
Amazing. It sounds to me and feels to me like you were maybe a bit ahead of your time. Do you
Yeah,
feel that?
I definitely feel I'm just going to pause for a second. I'm not sure if you can hear that.
No, we can't. No
That is
issues.
amazing. Thank you.
It's all good, honey.
Yeah, look, I definitely do look back and just go, oh my goodness. Working in the health retreat when I first met you, it was
Yeah.
literally the dawn, as I call it, the dawn of that wellness era. Like the word wellness didn't even exist. The wellness in industry as it is currently a multi-billion dollar
Mm.
worldwide, um, it didn't exist. It
Yes.
didn't exist. And it really was that kind of yeah, meeting point of healthcare, spa, luxury retreats meets this sort of what was alternate healthcare at the time, things like herbal medicine, Chinese medicine. And it's been an interesting journey kind of going from that sort of the very, very seed of that era and watching how things have evolved, sometimes not in such great ways, sometimes in incredible ways, and redefining myself personally throughout that process.
Oh, such a beautiful sharing. And I'd love to find out because I'm just thinking back to the times when, it was like complementary or alternative was like, I don't know, it was sort of on the cusp and it was like, what does that mean? Like what is that?
It
And
was a
then
bit
whereas
cringe.
I was also going to say it was a bit fringe and it's funny because it's like now that is our often our go-to place. And it's almost like I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But whereas the mainstream and traditional model has almost become the alternative, my feeling in and belief is we do need both. And I'm thinking back to my own health journeys around depression and anxiety. And I have shared, and I won't go too deeply into it, but just for context for our listeners and also for you, I'm a third generation war survivor. And I came to also the realization in my 40s that I'd been through quite significant childhood sexual abuse. And so, what happened as a result of all of that was chronic depression, suicidal ideation most days for many, many decades, and daily panic attacks. So, I had to go on antidepressants. And I'm very, very proud and very happy to say I'm off all of those for some time now and really able to feel the emotions and especially for women, feel the anger and
Mm.
process that and embody that and then move through it and all of those beautiful things. But I look back and I'm very grateful I had antidepressants. I
Yeah.
really am. I'm also very grateful I learned about the heart and meditation. I really am. I'm grateful for gut and mind health and eating the right foods and I don't drink alcohol and but it's both. And so I'd love to find out what's your take and your view on that on those schools of thought.
This is such a generous question and so important, I think, for women to hear. It's really, really, really something that yeah, this is a great question to really kind of open up into. We do need both and also both are there for us. And I think we can be really misguided or guided poorly to believe that it's only one or the other. This kind of black and white and or thinking is not doing anybody in any pocket of society any good, I don't feel. And it's understandable that women who haven't been cared for well by the general, what I'll call, yeah, mainstream
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Women haven't been cared for historically. We've not been involved in drug trials. We've not actually had our pain honored. There's extensive data now on how people, yeah, heart heart issues, for example, aren't being actually taken seriously in female population. There's a lot of data there to say that women haven't been cared for well by the general mainstream healthcare system. So the byproduct of that is that women have had to kind of hunt and gather and look for healthcare in other ways.
Yes.
Some of that is helpful. Some of that is not helpful at all. And I think if you've spent any time in the wellness era over the last 10 years, we've seen some of the shadow sides of how that's played out.
Yes.
And women can be and are marketed to in a really unhelpful kind of way, that these quick fix hacks and, one-stop shop products and all these sorts of things are out there, making it really, really hard to choose a path that is actually correct for ourselves, which is why I'm so passionate about helping women be educated on how their bodies work. Because if we understand how our bodies work and our cycles work, then we can say, oh, I'm going to go to this GP and I'm going to have some acupuncture. I'm going to say yes to the SSRIs and I'm going to learn how to do CBT therapy and breath work. There's options because we're educated and empowered about what's happening in our bodies. So
Mhm.
it's tricky because there's going to be a lot of the Western science has to catch up and actually, work with female physiology accurately and well, which is disgusting that it hasn't been. But okay, let's catch up on that path.
Yes.
And also, there's a lot of data as well as long, long, long history. I mean, Chinese medicine is 3,000 years old. Our first gynecological textbook is literally 2,000 years old. This isn't new knowledge. So I think it's just respectful and sensible and just practical and logical and to marry those two things if we possibly can. But it does take a lot of personal responsibility. And so what I hear from your story is that you got educated about your family history, you got educated about what was happening in your personal body and your personal life. And then you looked at the options and you said, I'm going to take some of this and I'm going to take some of this. And you probably did that half a dozen other times as you kind of tracked through over the subsequent years.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy path because you do have to take, and I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know, you have to take ownership of that. And you have to educate yourself, and it's hard work, and you have to advocate for yourself, and that's also hard work. So it's tricky to tell women who are struggling, guess what, girlfriend, you're going to have to advocate for yourself because understandably, we just want somebody to say, here's the pill or here's the practice. Um,
Yes. Or
it,
follow ABC. But then
mm,
oftentimes that's with no judgment, but a male doctor without that training that we have. And also, and you would know this, I don't think women were even in the research until the 90s.
90s. So 1990s,
Wow.
there was a major overhaul of the processes. So
Oh,
up until that point, women were just given smaller doses of the same medication regardless. And look, some of that was because the medical, I mean, you can understand it, but also it's just ridiculous.
yes.
It would have and now does have to be a whole lot more complicated because you've got different hormonal profiles happening at different times in the month. And so we have to understand what the drug therapy, if we're talking about drug trials, for example,
Mhm.
we have to understand what that drug therapy is going to do at each cycle. And there were some understandable issues where drugs were trialed on women and it was done poorly, and there were some really, really tragic outcomes.
Oh,
So
wow. I didn't realize.
yeah, so there's a whole wormhole you can go down there, but
Wow.
so yeah, but you're quite right. So that's literally 30 something years ago. That's not very long to understand how the pill affects our body, how pain medication affects our bodies. There's so many things that we're taking that literally they're still playing catch up in a lot of those trials and data.
And I wonder, and I don't know the stats on this, but we do know that the wellness industry now is worth billions. And I come from the angle of, part of what I do is actually business coaching for women in the wellness and creative space, particularly wellness. And I feel like I have a bit of a duty of care. This is also the social work background in me because we did a whole subject around ethics, and that really spoke to me because I am a woman that operates with a high level of integrity and ethics. It's just how I'm wired. And so I look at, if I'm working with a woman in her coaching business, does she have the qualifications? Has she done the research? Are we promoting an offer that is also going to not just serve her business and give her that, 10 to 15K, which is part of the marketing that we're working on at the moment, but it's also something that's actually going to get the wellness results for the woman. And it's a very very interesting and very also challenging, place to be in. But yes, going back to what you were talking about, it is our responsibility. I wish that we had people to just go, here's a doctor and here's the person, and mum says to do this and grandma says to do that. Unfortunately, well, grandma and mum aren't around for me. So that's sort of, I don't have those conversations. But also for grandma and mum who are around, for our listeners and our watchers, times were very different back then. So it is important to listen to our genetics, and also we know now a lot about epigenetics, of course, as well, but then also to do your own research, which can be very overwhelming. And I don't know if you have an answer to this question, but where can we start? Like where might be a good place for us to start looking to do some research around, Chinese medicine, complementary therapies? Have you got any suggestions for us?
Look, from a Chinese medicine perspective, I mean, it is an ancient art and science. So, literally, any book that you would purchase online or borrow from the library or read in your acupuncturist's waiting room is going to give you some understanding of what is qi, what is blood, some of the kind of yin yang. Like if you really want to kind of get curious about some of those types of theories, but I would I would almost make it more simple for women to get to know their own bodies. So if we're talking about cycles, track your cycle. And when I say track your cycle, that in itself can sound like a big complicated process if you've never even paid attention to whether you're on day 3 or day 8 or when do you start counting. So I mean, I meet women who are in their 40s going through peri,
Mm.
and they're like asking me at 42, oh, is day 1 of my cycle the beginning of my bleed or the end of my bleed? Like these are conversations that I hope we're now having with our teens and our, whether you're an aunt or a parent,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
I don't know if I have it right. Can you tell me? I'm definitely in perimenopause. I'm going to be 45 at the end of the year. My periods have always been terrible. That's been one of the biggest challenges in my health. Never regular. Sorry to be full disclosure,
I
but
mean,
most of our listeners are women. But there was hemorrhaging. I'd have to have blood infusions. It was pretty horrific. But yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming day 1 is the first day of the bleed. Is that correct?
100%,
Yeah.
100%, and and I say just, but it is, noticing how am I feeling today? Oh, I'm having this blue day again. Oh, hang on a minute. It
Mm.
happened on day 12, the last 3 months. That's really useful to me as an acupuncturist and probably any naturopaths or other allied health listening. They'll be like, oh, they're clearly low in progesterone, or oh, they're clearly,
Yes.
it's information. Now you might not know what that means yet, but you've been taking note and you're like, oh, I'm pretty sure it's like day 12. I'm always feeling really sad, or
Mm.
day 18, I really want to punch my husband, and
Or eat a whole block of chocolate at
eat
the
the
same time.
insane, and instead of internalizing that and going, there's clearly something wrong with me, I'm clearly bad or weak or all of that unhelpful self-talk, we can use that as data and externalize it and say, hey, acupuncturist, naturopath, person who's got a really lovely, hopefully Bachelor of Health Sciences in some fashion,
Yes.
or your clients are coming to you, and you can then refer them on
Yes.
and say, actually, do you know you could probably do some acupuncture because that
Yes.
looks like it's cyclic. And if
Yeah.
it's cyclic, we can treat that, you know. So it sounds like a simple concept, but it's enormous and it has far-reaching effects on how women can then experience their health and do so in a way that is measurable and actionable, and they know that the thing that they're doing is working. Okay, I'm going to take this wonderful new supplement, or I'm going to do this new exercise practice, and you
Mm.
can see whether or not it's working. You're not just falling for each month's new whiz bang product that is going to apparently solve the entire world's problems. You can actually put in something in your life, a new food or a new supplement, or get some treatment that is actually going to see outcomes.
Yeah.
Mm. That isn't just about you trying to be perfect or trying to be, you know, fix all the things that we can perceive are wrong with ourselves. So
Yeah.
that's a very, I'm trying to be concise, but it's just such a
Oh
big.
no, please! It's you. You absolutely have the microphone, and it's a wonderful. You're so passionate, and there's a lot of inspiration and wisdom and knowledge also in what you're sharing. So it's fantastic. What I'm hearing is it almost sounds like a profound ripple effect when they find the right sort of combination of things. And you're right, it's not one thing, although the right one thing can be that kind of opening to something really amazing in your recovery and in your wellness journey.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, you're mentioning a lot around acupuncture, and it's making me think I need to go back and get some actually, because it's been a few years. But tell us what you love about it. Tell us maybe if you've got, one or two clients that you can think of when they came to you, what they perhaps presented with, and how long they perhaps worked with you in that way, and then what the end result was.
I think I'm so, well, passionate. I keep using that word, don't I? But I think, you know, I've been practicing acupuncture for a good 20 plus years. So it is really the framework that I see life in, you know, the Chinese health, the way that we look at our internal organs is mirrored in our external life. It is really this whole philosophy where we see the tracking of the cycles and the seasons of the planet, you know, summer, autumn, winter, spring,
Yes.
is mirrored in our own internal seasons, you know. So we're able to get a sense of why things are happening and if there's a purpose or what's at play. Women will come usually because they're in pain or they're stressed or they're unable to sleep or a combination of all of the above. Often there's an internal imbalance at play, mirrored by external tricky things, whether it's tiny children, teenagers, um, big workloads that are actually too big, really, for what's going on, or some kind of, like you've shared, hard transition. You know, a parent is unwell, their partnership is ending, there's something else happening. So there's always an element of external life situations happening, mirrored by what's going on with their internal health. It's affecting their sleep, they're feeling anxious, those sorts of things. So human bodies are built to know how to fix themselves. We have a kind of homeostasis, which is just a big fancy word for saying everything works as it's meant to. And every single
I
cell in the
love
body,
that word. I haven't used it for a while, but I love it.
it's a good, juicy word. But every single cell
Mm.
in us knows what its job is, it knows what it should be doing, and it knows what it should be doing in partnership with the cell next to it. Every single cell has got that plan in it. If we give it the right amount of food, the right amount of rest, the right amount of water, the right amount of sunshine, the right amount of sleep. So, acupuncture is a big, fancy, delicious treatment protocol to encourage the body back to that place.
Mm.
You know, so um, it's helping to support the nervous system to come out of fight and flight and back into rest and digest. And again, most people would have heard those phrases thrown around. Usually there's an ad on Instagram telling us with 3 short breaths and our legs up the wall in a particular somatic practice, you too
Yeah.
can be back into da da da.
Yeah.
It's usually a bit more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Um, I poke fun, but you know, it's all good. The thing is that the acupuncture treatment offers that consistent, reoccurring point of stillness for the body to relearn how to come back to that place of rest and digest and calm.
Yeah.
The accumulative effect. So anything that's good for you is good for you because it begins to, so if you eat one plate of greens, that's great. But really the point is to have like 5 plates of greens across your week,
Mm,
and that accumulative effect of that builds up.
yeah.
So when we're kind of way, way, way out of balance and we're experiencing anxiousness, issues with our sleep, pain in some fashion, it's going to take a little bit of time to come back to
Mm,
that midpoint where the body knows it's in that safety, rest and digest, pain-free place.
yes.
Um, what we see, and I say we because I have this conversation with a lot of my colleagues, is that over the course of sort of those reoccurring treatments, not only does being in that place of rest and digest and experiencing care and all of those things that happen within an acupuncture treatment, you begin to be able to make different choices from a much more calm, measured, true place. And it's hard to quantify this, and you certainly you aren't necessarily telling a stressed out, anxious, woman who's leaving her husband and she's got 3 small children. And what do? You aren't telling her that in 6 weeks' time after acupuncture, she's going to be able to be in a calm place to make really intelligent, accurate, measured decisions for herself and her family. But that's what's going to happen.
Mm,
So she comes for a sore knee and a period pain. In
right.
the process of regulating that, you can't regulate, and this is the key difference, I think, from Western medicine, is you can't just regulate your period pain in your knee. You help support the whole person.
Yeah.
And so that makes, that affects everything else in their life because
Mhm.
they get to the treatment table and they're calm. So they have one less coffee that day.
Yeah.
And because they've had one less coffee, they have 2 more glasses of water. And because they have 2 more glasses of water, they sleep better.
Yes.
And then they sleep better and they get up in the morning and they actually see that they've got 10 minutes more than they thought they had to actually eat breakfast.
Hmm.
Then because they ate breakfast, they're going to have one less coffee and 2 less glasses of wine. It doesn't mean that their life is perfect and that they're not still dealing with hard things and that they don't still have shitty days where
Yes.
they eat the pantry out
Yeah.
or cry or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's just creating the access point for that ripple of change to start happening.
Yeah, that's amazing. Very powerful. It's those little mini decisions, the micro decisions that we're making that then impact everything. And then, it's like the example of you go to the gym and you wouldn't go once and do one sit up and say, my stomach's amazing and flat. You got to do it. It's repetition. And it's the same thing with our wellness journey and our health and our food and our water. It's making me think I need to drink more water, which I
I
will.
know, I know.
But it's all those little things. I want to ask you, this is a bit sort of random, but I went through a stage where I stopped coffee and I was just doing decaf. And I felt calmer, but I was also really unproductive.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is great for my health, but terrible for my wealth. And so I actually found a specialty blend quite by accident that didn't give me the heart palpitations that I was having with other coffee.
Yeah.
But what's your take? I know everyone's different. There's no kind of cookie cutter, but what's your take on coffee?
Oh, look, I have had years where I didn't have any, and it was wonderful. And I
Hmm.
look back and I go, who was that woman? I'm in my as many coffees as I can get in era. It's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal at all. I don't experience anxiousness or heart palpitations. I think we are all different,
Yeah.
obviously. Or sometimes I don't think that is obvious, but it should be. Uh,
Yeah. Different bodies. Yeah.
yeah. And uh, I would say that we do need to have something in our tummies before we chuck coffee in the morning. It's just a bit silly. And it's a bit silly from the perspective of our hydration. I mean, it really does affect that, and it does affect our that fight or flight sort of thing.
Mm.
If you are already stressed and you are throwing coffee in, it's not going to land well. If you
No.
are having a delicious coffee sitting down at 10 a.m., pondering the next thing to do, have at it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I think whenever, because being in the health retreat for such a long time, I would see, guests come in and they'd be like, "Oh, I only have one. I could totally give it up."
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't have to prove to me.
I know, right?
But also, you are addicted. So
Yeah,
am
oh
I.
yeah,
It's totally fine.
absolutely.
But if you're sort of repping how it doesn't matter at all, you're actually lying to yourself. Just
Totally.
just admit that you're addicted like the rest of us, and then we
Absolutely.
can kind of reconcile ourselves. If you're having issues with sleep, you really need to have a look at how much coffee you're having.
Yeah.
Women going through peri or who are really suffering with hot flushes, I have some hard conversations about wine
Yes.
and caffeine. It from a Chinese health perspective, it's a heating, drying food.
Oh wow. Okay.
So and from that perspective, it's not, I really try and stay away from saying that any food is good or bad. It's just not helpful. But coffee is heating and drying. Do you want to be more dry and more hot? No.
That's right. I'm thinking back to actually I had a trip to Guingana. This is making me think of all the times that I know that you're no longer with Guingana, because there's a huge emphasis on coming off coffee when you go and stay there, and other similar places as well. Luckily, this was January of last year. Luckily, I wasn't having coffee. So it was no issue for me. And I had a wonderful trip and I was exercising every day. It was fantastic. But a lot of the people in my group were having the headaches, the nausea. And I remember doing Reiki on someone because she was really struggling with day 3 of coming off coffee. But
Yeah,
yes, it's definitely it's a drug. It's a drug of choice. There is an addiction around it. But yes, I also think, your body knows, and one a day in that. For me, it's actually a ritual. And I was talking with another guest about this. I love waking up, hearing the sound of the coffee, making my coffee. It's a very mindful practice for me, smelling it, especially in winter in Melbourne. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
absolutely. And I heard, now I can't remember where I was, but a podcast or something, but a specialist working with ADHD was sharing that the dopamine
Hmm.
that you're seeking, so you actually will feel more settled and focused
Yeah.
having had a coffee. And I mean, that's literally what it does. I mean, it's also borrowing a whole bunch of other things. So we can't be like, yay, dopamine. It
Hmm.
has a cost, but that is why we can feel, like you said, like, okay, I'm I'm on task, off I go.
Yeah. And it's, everything, I believe everything moderation, and also that body awareness, really
Yeah.
knowing yourself. And I mean, that's part of what I do with the framework is it's self-inquiry. And part of that is the mind, body, and spirit awareness,
Yeah.
which we all need. But I think especially if you've been through any kind of trauma, which, let's be honest, every single person has been through trauma. There's
Yeah.
also trauma, and then there's trauma. There's
Yeah.
trauma that brings you into a place of complete disassociation and disconnection to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think even, more so for those of us that have been through those things, that mind, body, and spirit awareness is you have to have some sort of practice and way to understand yourself
Yeah.
and flow
100%.
into it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm just thinking about where we go from here. Do you have any, is there a program? Is there an offer? Is there something? Because I know I used to get your newsletters and things like that.
Yeah.
What are you currently working on these days?
Things have been, I'm the kind of person who starts a new business by accident in the middle of doing the first business. So
Maybe
it's
we should talk.
yeah, maybe after this we'll
Yeah.
um oh, look, that's a whole nother podcast probably to go into some of that. But I am now running my first ever bricks and mortar clinic on the.
Oh, wow.
So that has been, often I think a lot of the way that business is done, or entrepreneurs, they start with their bricks and mortar business and then
Yeah.
they go on to do other things. And
Yeah.
I've done it in my own fun little fashion. So the last 18 months have been really focused on my new clinic space.
Amazing.
And that is, I mean, I'm here right now. It's
Yeah.
a really beautiful space that will continue to grow and evolve and working from, and I still love seeing people in person. It's
Yes.
really important to me. Um, I started a online, and this was a business I started by accident at the beginning of the year, a subscription mentoring platform for
Beautiful.
acupuncturists,
Yeah.
and it's called Stab Club. And I think
I love the name.
for me, I've really I've kind of worked out that a lot of my work is very serious.
Mhm.
And I'm having, often some pretty, big, and you'd be the same. There's just big questions and big feelings, and you're holding a lot of space.
Yeah.
And that's delicious and it's wonderful.
Mm.
But also, there's a part of my personality that is really, really ridiculous. And I was like, how do I get to do some fun things
Yeah, definitely.
that's also purposeful?
Yes.
And so Stab Club just kind of happened, and I feel so, and you'll understand this. I'm like, okay, cool. So now I've got another business to run. Let me let me work out how on earth I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
deliver well, and
Yeah.
actually still genuinely have the fun that I was planning on.
Yeah.
Um, and all the while in the background, I am creating the online program for women going through peri. So that'll be
Oh,
the next, the
yeah.
next piece. But
Fantastic.
yeah, so health practitioner things, and then general women's healthcare things.
Amazing. And I think it cut off slightly, but you said that the clinic's in the Gold Coast. I think that's
Yes.
what you're saying. Yeah. And we'll make sure to add in all of the links in the show notes as well for your website and your offers and where the clinic is and everything else so we can support you too.
Pretty, kind of eclectic.
But it does, I can see how that would align and make sense because you're absolutely right, in terms of holding space and big energies and big emotions, there does need to be a way to just be free and fun and let loose. And I love dancing and I was saying before I swear a lot this year. It's a way to express myself. And we've got to you've got to have the balance. You've got to have both. Yeah.
Kind of,
Switching gears slightly, can you let us know? And I know that you were saying that you had a brief look before we hit record, but my beautiful model, the six selves,
yeah.
can you let us know what self is your favorite and why?
I really resonated with the values-based self
Yeah.
because it's something that I really lean into. Like if I'm having a tricky time making a decision, or if I'm having a tricky time saying no to something,
Mm.
for and we need to say no to things all the time. For example, when you have lots of new business ideas, you have to have a stern conversation with yourself and say, no, that is a lovely idea, but it's not where we're going today. um and obviously there's other
I love
you
that.
know, tricky situations where you really need to lean into those boundaries, but to really know what my values are and to trust that, because I think there's been and it's not always easy, if especially if your values potentially aren't ones that our culture uh,
Mm.
loves, because you're meant to value money and success and visibility and all of those kind of big things, although that's certainly been what I've heard from life.
Yeah. Yes,
Um,
that's the programming that the map of the world you have has been giving you. Yeah.
whereas, yeah, there's other values that are more important to me. So to be able to really anchor back and go, is that valuing health? Is that valuing creativity? Is that valuing generosity?
Mhm.
Yes, yes, no, yes, no. And really just using that as a simple reference point. But then also the sensual, creative
Yeah.
archetype is in there as well,
Yes.
for sure. And I think she's the one that probably would like a bit more airtime. So
Yes.
maybe I'm heading into my sensual self archetype era now. I'm not sure, but yeah, that definitely feels like a place that I have been and dip in and out of.
Beautiful. And it makes sense, right? Because as business owners, especially as female business owners, being able to value yourself, to know your values, to know what you stand for. And for me, it's whatever is authentically you in this moment. So, there's been times where I've really valued spirituality and esoteric wisdom and fifth dimensional living and conscious living. And I didn't want to know anything about the 3D world and anything material. And then now I'm in my era where I'm like, no, no, I'm planning for retirement. Tell me more about, material things. And it's actually for me now balancing out those worlds and how we can do that and inviting women, you and others listening, and also the guys too, to a place of it's whatever is authentically you. It's actually not what we're taught, what we're told by family, by Instagram, by whatever it is. It's the self-reflection of what is that you truly desire and want to create. And then yes, the sexual, sensual, creative self is how we can have that space to create our programs, our business ideas. And I love when you mentioned like those little parts of you, it's like, yes, yes, but not that one. And it's like the little inner child being able to just have the boundaries with ourselves and say maybe next year and maybe that one goes out another time, or perhaps that one is just a no because for various reasons. So yeah, beautiful sharing. We have one lucky last question, which is what advice do you have for others who are creating a business that serves both the world and their heart?
Oh, delicious. Um, One advice. Yeah, really anchor into yourself
Yeah.
and not in a way that is hyper independent. I think we've probably all been there on some level. I know I certainly had to unlearn a lot of that, but anchoring into yourself and being able to accept and receive help and support in making whatever it is real is, yeah, definitely something that I'm leaning into now. And I would love my past self to have had those skills. And I would definitely, any of the younger or newer health practitioners that I'm having conversations with, like just really be true to yourself and seek help, care, advice, and support from that place.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful sharing. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you so much. What a privilege to have you on this episode. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to go get myself some water and greens.
Same.
We'll catch you soon. The information provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, health, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified health professional or financial advisor before making any decisions related to your personal health or finances.